what happens when we begin to label normal tendencies, normal human behaviors, normal imperfections as unhealthy? Now, there are a couple of different things that I have come to recognize that actually are normal, that are labeled as unhealthy, and they are the following: seeking external validation, reacting impulsively, also doing things we wish we didn't, and self-sabotage, being triggered by love and challenged by relationships, talking to an ex, people-pleasing and putting others' needs before your own, relational dependence and codependence. Now, here's what happens when we begin to call these things unhealthy and label them as that. When you then engage in these different behaviors or kind of embody some of this yourself, right? You begin to feel shame and guilt around these things. See? And that is when perfectionism takes root. It takes root when you begin to see the normal human kind of tendencies that we tend to go through and grow through as unhealthy. Yeah, when you begin to see these things as unhealthy, you begin to shame yourself for engaging in them. You begin to see yourself as abnormal, as that there's something wrong with you, that you're not basically behaving in the right manner. So you begin to have a paradigm of right and wrong, black and white. See? So let's go through each and every single one of these and begin to demystify them, right? To begin to normalize them so that you can begin to actually, not shame yourself anymore, not guilt yourself anymore if you do engage in them, but rather give yourself kindness and love and compassion if you ever fall into these different tendencies. So first, seeking external validation. External validation is just as important and fundamental to our experience, right? To your experience as internal validation is, right? We live in a social world. We are social creatures. We truly are, but we've forgotten that we are. So because we, live in a social world, we are not able to learn how to rely upon ourselves without actually having some form of external interactions or experiences with a world that reaffirms our value. Okay? There is no self without the other. See? We simply cannot cultivate self-esteem or self-empowerment without our environment and the people that we love. And so in the transition from being stuck, let's say, in your life where you have built something for your life, but you no longer resonate with it, you might find it tough to actually step beyond that because we are wired for some sort of external validation. And if you're surrounding yourself with people, right? If you find yourself in an environment that is not supportive of your intentions, your dreams, your aspirations, then that is just going to be an additional layer to you not actually beginning to embody a different version of yourself. So the key here, because we know that seeking external validation is a fundamental part of being human, you get to then see that as empowering. You get to actually then work with that principle, right? Work with your humanness and begin to position yourself in new environments, in new circumstances, in new circles, where you can begin to get external validation for being you and who you are becoming. See? Personally, that is what I have done in my own journey, going from, let's say, being a, student, yeah, and going on the traditional path more so to actually embarking on a more risky, journey of entrepreneurship and coaching. And then that then required of me or asked of me and invited me to then find a circle and create a circle and seek out others who are on a similar journey as me, to begin to validate their journey, and so they begin to validate mine. And so we begin to create normalcy around what we're doing. And then that becomes more familiar. So you see, seeking external validation, right? It's not something that is abnormal. It is actually normal, and it's just for you to begin to work with that principle. Also, then, next, reacting impulsively. So I hear a lot, and I've caught myself thinking to myself too sometimes that it's so essential to begin to respond rather than react. But when we say that to ourselves, or when you hear that, right, you then begin to kind of take on the belief that to react is wrong. To react is not something that you should do. To react is not, something that will serve you, right? We all know this intellectually, but what does it do, right? It actually makes you shame yourself whenever you do react. And as part of being human, you will react to certain things. Because you know what? You do actually have a limbic system in your mind, which is connected and really just a part of, and it truly is, the subconscious mind, which is connected to the body, which we have so much, wired into our DNA from ancestors to generational trauma to our own trauma, that sometimes we get triggered. Sometimes we do react. Even though that we know a lot, we have read a lot of books, we have taken courses, we've advanced ourselves, we have grown, sometimes we do react. And that is freaking okay. That is normal, right? Everyone, trust me, absolutely everyone is impulsive from time to time and reactive. It is okay to react and to be angry, okay? On the scale of consciousness, we have so many different emotions, and part of being human is actually going through each and every single one of these. And oftentimes, you can't go from feeling empty and numb to being joyful and happy. Sometimes you actually, in fact, I would say all of the time, most of the time, you're going through different emotions. So you will then go from, numbness and emptiness through to maybe anger or jealousy and all of these emotions up through the scale to increase your vibration more so, meaning you're coming more into yourself, into who you truly are as you decondition a lot of stuff in you, right? So, in fact, I would say growth, right? Growth or healing isn't 24/7 being calm or having an absence of emotionality. That's not what growth is about. I'd say that growth is being able to increase the tolerance of love that you can have in your life for yourself and for others. And you can only increase that, amount of love through learning about yourself, through sometimes actually reacting impulsively, right? And learning about others too, through them acting impulsively. And beginning to embrace the fact that we are human, that it is to be expected, that it won't come as some sort of shock or something that comes out of nowhere, because it should be expected that we do react sometimes and that is normal, okay? It's an unrealistic standard, which perfectionists tend to have this, right? It's an unrealistic standard to believe that you will always be in your conscious mind. The key really is here to make sure that at times you just pause and you reflect in order to better understand your triggers and your initial reaction to them. Because trust me when I say, regardless of where you are in your personal growth journey, right? In your journey in blooming beyond perfectionism, there will be triggers. The triggers will not go anywhere. Your response and reaction to them is what will change. As you begin to practice observing the triggers more so than reacting to them, but still having love for yourself when you do react, because that is what it means to bloom beyond perfectionism. It's not to no longer react, it's to observe your reaction with love and kindness. That is a key, right? So this expands your awareness beyond one situation where you react so that you can begin to see the patterns and begin to choose differently now or the next time. And next up, I also wanted to say another thing. Doing things we wish we didn't and then self-sabotage. This is another kind of thing that we believe to be something that is abnormal, when in fact it is normal. It is normal to do things that you wish that you didn't and then self-sabotage, because it's part of your subconscious mind driving your body to seek the familiar and avoid the unfamiliar. And part of growing is actually, going up against that and challenging that. Yeah? Making mistakes, trying and failing, making some errors here and there, and still showing up despite your self-sabotage. So whenever you find yourself self-sabotaging, you're not stopping because of it. You bring yourself back up and you go again. And you begin to rewire your subconscious for new ways of being. So we all do things, right, that we would otherwise want to avoid. Behavior is not inherently bad. It's culture that constructs kind of categories of good versus bad behavior. That's really what it is. So we begin to believe that there is something good, there's something bad, there's something we should do and something we shouldn't do, there's something we have to do and something that we absolutely is not to do. So we're all limited. We're all limited and can behave in self-sabotaging ways that are incongruent with our conscious goals, our intentions, and what it is that we want for ourselves. So that is normal. So spend less time harshly evaluating your behavior and more time exploring the meaning behind it. Just accept and embrace and tolerate your imperfections so that you can move on and enjoy your freaking life. Furthermore, here's another one. Being triggered by love and challenged by relationships. So, listen up. All relationships are fundamentally risky and will stir up a variety of triggers. The most brave thing that you can ever do is to love wholeheartedly, is to let yourself be vulnerable and to let yourself be triggered and grow through that process, right? I know, because when I was a perfectionist, do you know what I did? I armored up and I stick to myself. I worked my ass off and I had no connection in my life whatsoever as a consequence of that. No authentic connection, because I was deeply afraid, really. I truly had a fear of being abandoned or being rejected or not being able to do this relationship in a perfect way, right? Or feel perfectly all the time about it. But you will get triggered in relationships, and they're meant to challenge you. That is how we learn about ourselves and about each other. So adult love, right, is insecure, and it is conditional to some extent too, right? We do depend on each other for certain things. For just being human, it's normal to have some sort of dependency and to not only be solely independent. So instead of kind of bringing the kind of, bringing the independence up on a pedestal, you take it down from the pedestal and you begin to see that depending on others is actually quite healthy. It is healthy to begin to trust someone and to allow yourself to be seen, heard, and understood. So be brave and develop an awareness and an appreciation of your earlier wounds. Then, talking to an ex, right? So this one is probably one that is controversial. isn't it? But here's the thing. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. Whatever you do. Because hear me when I say X, right? The word X has a certain conditioning in your mind. You have been conditioned to believe a lot of things already. You hold a lot of beliefs about what it means to have an ex in your life or not to have an ex in your life, and how to treat a previous romantic and intimate partner. Because you've heard what you should do and what you shouldn't do. Now, I just want to remove that stigma for a bit and just allow all of that to dissolve. And I want you to tune into your body, right? In your journey, where you are, right? What would feel most authentic and true to you? That is how you can begin to navigate the landscape of having an ex, right? Of having a loved one that no longer is there in the way that they were before. That's simply what it is. So I truly believe that it is okay if you still talk to your ex, even if it's complicated right now. And the presence of a relational challenge does not make a relationship unhealthy, even when it's with an ex. So instead, think about your continued relationship as an honoring of intimacy and a capacity to maintain relationships. And begin to learn the lessons about yourself, right? Through being mirrored by an ex, right? You might come to realize that you have actually grown a whole lot. If you bump into an ex, or if you get contacted by an ex, that might be the universe sending you a signal or a synchronicity, right? A sign to show you how much you've grown, right? Or not. Maybe you haven't grown to the extent that you may have wanted to. And then that is okay too, because then you've received that message and you get to take that into account. See? Also, furthermore, then we have this one, people pleasing and putting others' needs before your own. This one is big because obviously I'm here to help you create a life and business of freedom from perfectionism with the power of the subconscious mind. And part of that is being able to really grow from being someone who's pushing, proving, and pleasing to someone who is truly bright, brave, and balanced and is able to be brave enough, really, right, to actually no longer people please. But here's the thing. That doesn't mean that people pleasing is not normal. People pleasing is something that actually comes pretty naturally to human beings. People pleasing is a relational strength to some extent. It's just a matter of, is it damaging your authenticity and your truth? Are you doing it from a place of feeling a sense of lack within yourself and a sense of unworthiness, right? Or are you actually pleasing others simply because you feel so full of wholehearted love that is simply just natural to you? See? People pleasing is a relational strength. If the extent of the pleasing is coming from a true place and a wholehearted place, a full place, so you don't feel depleted after the engagement. The challenge is in the inability, really, to receive, if you ask me. So a lot of high performers with perfectionism who have people-pleasing tendencies have trouble receiving, letting themselves actually receiving something back. So instead, they're just giving, and not actually being able to inhale to and receive. It's just living off the exhale, right? But we need both. We need that kind of fluctuation, but it takes a commitment to self over time to begin to learn what that is, what that means to have that balance. So it's in the anxiety, right? In the anxiety about receiving. It's in that anxiety that you can begin to reevaluate if this people-pleasing is serving you or not. It's in the anxiety that's often so deeply ingrained and implied in the people-pleasing behaviors that you can begin to learn about yourself. decondition yourself, begin to see your beliefs. So, it's essential to do things for others, to be kind and to give to those you love, but also explore your traumas and give yourself permission to receive. Furthermore, relational dependence and codependence. This is a big topic right now too. I see a lot of talk about, relational dependence and codependence and codependent and narcissistic kind of relational patterns and dynamics. And it's very often, the case that we begin to then label people in our lives that have embodied certain behaviors and so and so. But the truth really is that deep down, we're all here expressing love, an expression of love. And we all have some sort of wounds in which we have found coping mechanisms for, which perfectionism is one of them, right? Codependency is one of them. Narcissism is one of them. There's so many different ones. See? And either one, every single one of them, they should, if you ask me, be considered to be normal in the way that they actually served that individual, oftentimes when they were kids, at a certain point. Served them back then, but oftentimes as adults, it no longer serves us. So it is normal, okay? All relationships are to varying levels, codependent and dependent. And the way in which we evaluate and moralize dependence in relationships is purely cultural and environmental too. Instead of, policing dependence, right? Being like, you did this, so we should do this equally, it can be more important to understand the value of both independence and dependence. Beginning to actually realize that it's not about the term, it's about actually coming to your core self, to your essence, and breathing, being with yourself and recognizing, okay, what is it that I most need right now? Is it to give? Is it to receive? Is it to be independent right now, be in my independent energy? Or is it to actually allow myself to be vulnerable enough to kind of be codependent, to actually have some sort of interdependence going on here? See? I'm using these terms a little, interchangeably right now, but the meaning is really, are we willing to be able to both give and receive? Are we able to be both independent and interdependent on each other? So now you know that each and every single one of these different points, they're normal. So I truly have the intention here that you're sitting right now with a feeling of feeling normalized, right? Feeling like these different points are normal and that you can take off some of the shame and the guilt around engaging in these, because it's a part of your growth journey to actually go through these different tendencies. See? A big part of the Bloom Beyond Perfectionism program, for instance, that I'm offering is to be able to normalize a lot, is to be able to take the shame and the guilt off for a bit and begin to recognize what is actually normal and that there's no such thing as right and wrong, that it all depends on the context, the spectrum, and where you are in your journey, right? What we're dealing with in your situation. I truly invite you to join the Bloom Beyond Tribe, which is an exclusive tribe and community for high performers with perfectionism, to be able to together create a life and business of freedom from perfectionism with the power of the subconscious mind, to be able to work with your subconscious mind, which oftentimes is where these different behaviors are stored. It's in your subconscious. It is your subconscious that's making you seek external validation, to react impulsively, right? to self-sabotage, to, do things that you wish you didn't. It is in your subconscious that, you have beliefs that make you triggered by love and challenged by relationships. It is your subconscious that oftentimes draws you towards your ex. It's your subconscious that also puts you into this tendency of people pleasing. It is your subconscious that have this kind of need to have that kind of codependence dynamic going on oftentimes too. See what I mean? And so being able to actually rewire your subconscious, but at the same time, normalize these tendencies in the growth journey of you actually beginning to embody different ways of being, that is essential. Showing up as a bright, brave, balanced version of you, being kind and gentle with yourself and compassionate with yourself when you're engaging in these different behaviors. So go to bloombeyond.com/apply to join. And from there, you will also be able to explore our paid offerings. If you are interested in the Bloom Beyond Perfectionism program, the Bloom Beyond Mastermind already, then you can also enroll actually straight away. If you would like that, then you can also go to our website to check out those, right? But you do get the opportunity to be around our paid clients and other, guests as well in the Bloom Beyond Tribe for approximately 30 days to get to know me, to get to know everyone else, and to see if this is the coaching journey that you want to embark on right now to be able to overcome perfectionism. Alrighty. Thank you so much for your presence and listening. Sending you so much light and love, and truly remember to normalize what we've talked about. You are normal, you're human, and I love you.